I was born in communist Romania, and back in those days we were not even allowed to have a passport, let alone to travel freely.
As a psychologist, I work with immigrants, and I wonder if we can manage all those problems coming up.
Even to this day, and after so many years after the collapse of communism, traveling freely from one country to another gives me goosebumps. Do you think that it's the fear of the other that plays a big role here?
It's unknown. They're strangers, totally strangers, and it's difficult to communicate. For instance, the language. The government does not know how to manage.
Overall, my guess is that those migrants who come to Europe, because they are seen as migrants, they work harder in order to compensate for that particular sense of, let's say, inferiority if you go to a different country and you're perceived as a migrant.
I was born in Italy, in the north. My parents come from the south, but my mother has a Spanish surname, Spanish that is with Arabic origin. So if I look at somebody, I don't look at nationality.
One of the most important things that people has to do is to try to have empathy with them, to expose in a relaxed and respectful way your opinion, listen to the others and find common points. Europe has not power, enough power to make this politics applies to countries.
So the problem is not Europe, is the lack of Europe.
No.
If you say they don't have enough power, so I make it stronger.
What means more power? More economic sanctions.
If I have a problem in a global scale, I will not have each prime minister to talk. If Trump comes to Europe, he will speak, of course, also to Prime Minister, but the most important person must be somebody from Europe that represents everybody.
One person in Europe has no idea about what's meaning in a little town in the middle of Spain, has no idea. In the local, I know what I want to do, and people, it's very easy to involve people because it's their neighbor, their family, their friends.
Okay.
So I think the paper of Europe is to support this.
But even taking very easy economical approach about even a factory or something like that, you cannot solve if you do not have a global approach.
It's crazy to think that less than 1 century ago there was war and we killed each other. And now I live in France and nobody points at me like a foreigner. When we say let's exit from Europe, it doesn't make sense because it is what we are.
Europe has very good politics about environment protect or about climate changing, but to apply it to its countries is really difficult. Europe has to have the power to make it happen. If not, why?
Exchange of views is always enriching. If that other person has like a completely opposite opinion of what you have, you might learn something from it.
I identify myself equally as an Irishman and as a European citizen. I've married a Lithuanian woman and I've enjoyed the experience of sharing my culture with her culture.
Crossing borders and people living together is absolutely no problem. But the question is, are we all going to be Europeans with, how should I say, one big soup, everything mixed together? Or are we still going to have our own identities? I think in some circumstances it might be necessary to have like, how should I say, guarded borders. Like what happened some time ago with this influx of refugees. A lot of refugees went to countries who are more popular than to other countries. In fact, it should have been distributed in equal shares.
I don't know, my personal opinion, Angela Merkel opened the doors, come on into Germany, and I think that's an absolutely wonderful thing. I feel it's humanitarian what she did there.
If you look at the border between the UK and Europe, right, which is the channel, there are people risking their lives to go over the channel. They end up in the UK, they're going to be illegal. So they're going to end up in like the hands of people who absolutely have no intention to respect their interests.
As China and Russia present new sets of norms, the European Union needs to stand by the norms that it has, and those norms are rule of law, freedom of expression, so we all recognize this. or at least in theory, we should be
Yeah,
sharing these.
yeah. You say in theory, but in practice, that's my frustration. In theory, yes, but in practice.
Applied to reality, in Europe, you have very different economics. Spain economy has level here, and maybe Finland is on there. So you can't play on free market.
Europe has like how many states? How many member states? 27, 28, whatever. Each one of those countries is going to have some problems with security.
We have the European Space Agency. That is something very cool. It is something coming from a group of countries. Italy couldn't do European Space Agency. And France, they believe a lot in it, but they couldn't do it. Germany couldn't do it alone.
Can we take something from the Flemish and Wallon situation, the conflict in the past? Can we take something from that and bring it to the Brexit table?
Belgium is a country of compromise. For Europe, if you have to compromise with 28 different opinions, it's going to be a lot more difficult.
I think there's a better chance of compromise with a large number of states. I mean, if you get, say, 10, 12 states agreeing on one particular subject, you might get 3 or 4 more guys saying, okay, let's join it. It reminds me of the film 12 Angry Men.
Maybe it's not, I don't want, I can do it alone, or I don't need Europe. Maybe it's, I don't want to be part now in Europe because of the way it is structured.
Either you are on the same level or you close your borders and create your own rules, but not something in between. That's not clear.
But don't you think the more fractured you are as a society, the more it can benefit certain politicians? If there is a genuine interest in starting a dialogue, if there is a will, there may be a way as well. Unless we all pitch in, it's not going to happen.
It was interesting to see how we have the same starting point, but then we went in different directions.
Did you enjoy it?
I enjoyed it, yeah. On the principles we agreed, but we have a difference of meaning on how it will be implemented.
When we were talking, I did bite my lip a couple of times.
All right.
I let you speak a bit, but I'm glad I didn't butt in then, because I'm learning different angles.
Often we blame people with different ideas, but when you start to really discuss and deep the argument, you find many more commonalities, many more matching points than differences.
The only way to change is through dialogue. You know, what we've done here today, for example.
Yeah.
And I think that in itself is a great initiative. It's wonderful, and you know, you and I might continue this dialogue, even off camera. So
It's like you have a chat with your mates in the pub. The first sign of conflict, and there's a big argument, but we had conflicts today, but there was no arguments.
Maybe if we give more power to Europe, but with a very specific and innovative or renovate way, maybe it will be good.
Okay.
Maybe, but I think it's a little difficult. But it's good.
So maybe something changed. Okay.
Yeah,
good,
maybe.
good.
You just said like it feels like having like conversation in the pub.
Yeah.
So I think maybe tonight we have to share a couple of beers.
We'll have to
well.
continue it, yeah.
Yeah, I
definitely.
think so, yeah.